everyone. Welcome to Lisi's Three Things, where we are discussing what you need to consider when designing your website. Websites have like a gazillion different options and opportunities. And so we came up with three things that we think people should consider. Of course, there are probably a million things people should consider, but those are the three we're going to dive into today. I am Taryn Elliott, the Director of Marketing and Client Success at Lisi, and I am joined by Ray Ritter, the Director of Client Service and Marketing at Lisi as well. And she is going to be a wealth of knowledge on this topic because she works with clients day in and day out on all of the considerations. She has all of the thoughts on this. So Ray, welcome. I'm really excited to be doing this.
Thank you. And also today we're focused really on not every single consideration for websites, but focus primarily on the design and,
Yes.
where does that start? And, at Lisi, I've helped launch and design and launch dozens and dozens of sites. And before that, in-house at a couple of law firms. So, we're coming at this, from seeing it from both sides. To get started, I think the very first part of a website design really isn't design, it's branding. And I think that's, as a team, that's really our first step when a client comes to us and says, hey, I'm ready to design my site. Our first step is to go back and look at their branding, right? And we ask.
Because everyone says, this is who I am, but I want to be different than everybody else.
Exactly. It needs to be exactly the same as all these sites, but different and better. And we hear that all the time. So we ask, what is the state of your current brand? And I mean, this is like a chart here that a lot of folks reference, hey, we know what different colors mean, and we know what types of emotions different types of logos will evoke. And a logo is just one part of a brand. It also includes it's the mark, it's the font and color of the name of the firm. It's also other elements like the fonts and other visual little elements. And it could be related to the photography. Is it all black and white photography? Is it pictures of people, or is it pictures of things? Or, it's really more than just the mark, the logo.
Mm-hmm.
But we always start there. Do you like your brand? Is it doing what you need? Is it differentiating your firm? And is it leaving a memorable impression for your clients, and maybe even more importantly, for your prospects, right? And we also have to think about, in addition to your website with that brand, where is it going to live, right? It's on your website. It's going to be a big deal on your website, but also on all the other marketing and business development collateral. It could be on print. It could be on a golf ball. It could be, in your lobby, a sponsorship ad. So it has to work across a lot of mediums. And in the end, whatever is chosen needs to kind of carry through along on the site as well. So we always start with that question, what is the status of your brand? What weight, what value does it have with your clients and prospects? So then the next question is obviously, should we keep it? Should we refresh it? Or should we do a total overhaul? And there's not a one size fits all answer, right? So we need to ask those questions. And sometimes we find that clients are it's very emotional. They worked really hard 10, 15 years ago for that brand. And it was great and amazing and groundbreaking at that time. But, it's always a question we ask. We're not really trying to push a client into a direction. You have to get a new one or not. But if we don't ask that question, we're not really following through with the very first steps of the website design. So one thing I want to point out on this color chart here with these logos is, if you look at all of the law firms, you're going to see a lot of blue. And why is that? Because, every law firm wants to create trust in their clients and strength and, be dependable. But in the end, if every single law firm website is blue, how can you really stand out? So we always encourage our clients to really dig a little bit deeper than just that this color means this thing. And also, what are the other feelings you want to evoke from your brand? Maybe boldness is not the answer. Maybe it is. It depends on the type of law, your lawyers, the culture of your firm. So other things we can do if folks are set on blue is use secondary and tertiary colors as accents on the site, and also focus on the other elements, like we said, the typeface, the fonts, other just visual elements from the icon that goes along with the logo. So again, step one with when you're thinking about your new website design, review your brand.
Well, and I think that's such an important one because it really does lay the foundation for the design element that is going to, come further down the line. But when we get to design, it's not just the brand and the colors and the photos. Like, design really starts with the functionality, structure, and planning, which brings us to our second thing this week. You wouldn't build a house if you didn't have a plan, and if you're building a house, you sit down and you say, these are the things I want. These are the things I need. This is what I need the house to do for me, for it to work, with how I live my life. And your website is no different. And so we always tell clients, like, you need to sit down and we will work with you to figure out exactly what this website needs and what it needs to do. And really the biggest benefit to this is, of course, creating a great user experience. Getting people to your website and spending time on your website and making it easy for them to find the information that they need, hopefully converting them from prospects to actual clients. But the other really important thing is that it can have a lot of benefits for SEO, not only in how the websites are crawling it, but also in getting people to stay on the website longer and providing them with the information they need. Internal linking can be really important in this beginning phase, and simplicity of usage. Like, we talk about the user experience, but also as the attorney or marketer who needs to be in the back end, making updates, that's important too. And understanding what you want and need the website to do from the beginning makes planning the back end of it a lot easier. So some of the things that we look at is the navigation and the content structure. And what you're really thinking about when you're thinking about the needs are like the pages you want on your website, homepage and about page, practice areas, attorneys. Those are pretty standard, but really getting into some of the other pages that might set you apart, or that might just be a little bit different from the normal, which might be like, do you want a community page? Do you have sub-practice pages? Like, we see that, and knowing that in the beginning makes it a lot easier to design and plan if there's sub-practices. Blogs, videos, frequently asked questions, those are all really important information to have on your website, to be found, to drive people to your website. But they have their own structure that they need to be planned for. News, alerts, resources is another one, events. These things all are a little bit different, and not every website has them. If you're in an area where you can put a portfolio, results, case studies, you can do really amazing things with that if you plan it out. Sometimes people need other landing pages, microsites, contact pages. Like, all of those things need to be considered in the beginning, as well as, kind of the site map and what you want to look that to look like. And then there are even some other little extra things like terms and conditions, or whatever legalese it is that might be required by either your jurisdiction or like legal jurisdiction, advertising rules, but also, just sometimes canned spam acts, and canned spam's more email. But anything else that you need to consider when putting up a website based on where you live or where your clients and prospects live.
And if I could add to that, obviously this first step is, okay, what are the pages of your current site? What is it doing for you? Do you want to carry all those pages over to the new site in your new design? And then step two is, what don't we have? What are we missing?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned community. I think we see a lot of sites now, are really going into more detail about pro bono work and volunteering, because clients and people care about that more and more. The up and coming decision makers care more about that. What about the other functionality like ADA, accessibility on the site, or having a DEI page. Those are some things that were not as top of mind whenever your last site was built. So your designer, your development company, your agency should be talking to you about these things. Hey, you don't have these pages. Would you
Yeah.
consider this? And it's all part of that planning before any actual design starts to happen.
Yeah, and that's just pages and structures. And then, you get into functionalities, which isn't something we think about every day, but when developing a website, is really important because you need to make sure you have the pieces that you need in place, so that way you can do things like add site-wide search functions, or maybe you don't want search everywhere, maybe you just want search for a specific part of your website. If there's integrations with like your file management program or your email program, those are better discussed up front than at the end when you're like, oh, oops. Filtering on your website is a big one we see a lot. Forms is a big one. We'll get requests for payment options. If you want to have maps on your website, how to be found. If there are certain interactive features, we've developed websites where people are like, I want there to be a map of the US. And when you scroll over it, this happens and it brings up this information about this state. That's a lot easier to develop in the beginning. If you're adding a blog or you need a blog, there's a lot of different ways to set that up. And then you get into video libraries or photo galleries, and how are you pulling that information and aggregating it in a way that you want your prospects to see. Event calendars, social sharing tools, chat's one that we're seeing a lot, which covers a lot of those functionalities, and understanding what you need your website to do and the tools that you are bringing in to accomplish that, and what it's going to be like for not only the website user, but also, you, the law firm on the back end, is really important, because then you can bring all of your needs from a structure standpoint and all of your functions that you want it to do, and then really create a plan. And this is where you get into sitemaps or wireframes or lists or charts, or however you and your design firm decide to do it. So that way you have a hierarchy and you understand what the navigation is going to look like and what the URLs are going to look like and where pages are going to link and not link. And by having this comprehensive plan before you even get to the full design and content can, help you as you move through the process. You avoid some back and forth trivial conversations that end up taking a lot of time that could have just been all discussed at the beginning. Your design firm isn't making assumptions about what you want or what you need, creating, dissatisfaction along the way. You don't have to backtrack and add something in, which can cause delays and it can cause missed deadlines. And the other thing that we find a lot happens is when we don't have these discussions up front or things aren't considered, then we get into like scope creep in projects. So defining what you want from the start really just make sure that both you and your website development and design team are on the same page.
Mm-hmm. And it's really the project manager's job to try to keep things in scope. So it's in everybody's best interest to try to figure out all that planning from the beginning. And the truth is, a client, a law firm may find something late in the process that they absolutely have to have. And it's, hey, we're past design, we're already in development. Adding this now is going to take extra, time and hours, and it really wasn't in the scope. And the reality is, that's scope creep, but it still can be done, right? This is not, a sculpture carved out of marble that you can't glue the marble back. You can always build, you can always change on it. And that's one of the things that I love about working in websites and web development, that you can always add on to it if you have to. It just may be out of scope. So it's just important to, keep those lines of communications open with your agency to know, okay, well, so if we do this, what is the outcome? Because we have some clients who say, we didn't think of it in the beginning, but we thought of it now and it has to happen at launch. Or ask the question, should this be a phase 2 effort? We're going to launch the site. So the new site's out there showing our brand, showing our presence. And then in the next, month or two after launch, we'll design and develop out this new whatever it is that someone thought of in the end. So
yeah. And both of those things actually happened when we launched our own website. There were some things that we were like, ooh, there's this thing that we didn't think about, and now we're going to get it in before launch. And then there was a few things that were like, oh, this would be nice to have. Let's make it a phase 2 project, or let's add it on. And it would have been ideal to do it first, but you make it work. We launched plenty of websites with phase 2 lists.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were talking before this program about how it's like building a house. And, if you want a 3-bedroom, 2-story house and you build it, and at the end you realize you need a back deck, also someone can come in there and tear out a wall and put in a slider and give you a back deck. It's not the end of the world. It's just, it won't, don't be surprised it's not in the original scope.
Yeah.
But it can happen.
Yeah. Needs change, new technologies arise, all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So planning is great in the beginning, but also, don't let that deter you if you come across something along the way. So, all right, well, that gets us to our third point, which is a question we get a lot. What comes first, the design or the content? How do we marry those two? And Ray, you have the most experience dealing with this, because I think this is probably something we discuss for nearly every website. So I will let you tackle this one.
And you hit the nail on the head, marry them, right? So if you ask a writer, hey, we're doing a website, what should come first, the writing or the design? The writer would probably say, give me the design first. I will write for that design. And if you ask a designer, she might say, no, give me the content first and I'll design for it. And what we find is we have the most success for our clients when there's collaboration. So step 1, write a draft of the content on the page. I mean, I'm literally talking about the content on a bio, a practice area, what goes on the about page. First, write a draft and then look it over with the designer. The designer is going to see things in that content that and already start having ideas on how to show that in a visual way on a website. So there should be a little back and forth and collaboration. Hey, I think, I see how this, these paragraphs are working out. What if we broke this out and showed it in a different, more visual way? And then the writer can go back and tweak things. And then we just always find that there's more success that way when we collaborate. Another thing that we don't realize is just a designer will see the words on the page differently than the writer. I mean, it's just like their natural skill set. And we've seen that in our own, in our clients' work. There was a site we launched a couple years ago that just stands out to me. The writer wrote something along the lines of, it's rare to find such a breadth of legal experience and industry knowledge and a wide range of services all in one regional firm. So, I mean, that sounds like the kind of thing, like, is that something that a lot of firms might say about themselves? Perhaps, but just the way it was written, there, like a light bulb went off in our designer's mind, and then she narrowed in on the word rare and then used visual imagery using pearls, rare pearls. Now, I don't think that we think of pearls as being on a law firm website very much, but with the whole overall branding and tone and type of imagery across the site, it was perfect. And it really creates a very strong visual next to this language. And she would never have picked that visual if she just designed using placeholder content. It probably would have been a placeholder image, and it wouldn't have been very powerful in designing that site and developing out the brand with the website. So, I always think about those examples that the designers just see the words on the page differently. So use that to your advantage. I think, we got the chicken and the egg at the same time. It's really about marrying those two and, collaborating on the content, during the process, not doing one first and then the other. So,
well, and I think that, the way you explained it actually also brings us back to our first point about branding and differentiation. Like when you can really weave your written story with your visual story in your website, you can really start to create ways that you're differentiating yourself from your competitors in a visual way, which is what you want your website to do. You know, if you're using a visual of pearls, that's not necessarily what every other website is using. They're using a visual of a boardroom or, umbrellas or whatever it is. And then, here's something that's different and a way to set your website apart and a way to reinforce your message if you're integrating all of those things. Sometimes our writers will pull out small, elements that support the design, or sometimes our designer will pull out small elements that support the wording that we're using. And so that really just goes to show that you can differentiate yourself when everyone is working together to kind of create that really, really unique website for each law firm that could be no other law firm's website.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think we're not saying that a visual of people in a boardroom is good or bad. It's just, if you choose something that is more common, like a visual like that, how do you just make the rest of your site look and feel different from every other law firm that's using blue and, has people? And so it's something that really takes a creative eye and a creative team. Lots of focus on the brand, focus on all that planning, that you talked about earlier. And then, a clear focus on the content with an eye towards the design and that collaboration.
Yep. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our 3 things today. So thank you for tuning in for 3 things, website design considerations. Check out our website for a lot more content related to design and development and even, writing for your website. That is on our website as well. We will be back next Friday with another new live stream. So same time, same place. See us there and have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.